Coming up next on the Holistic Wealth Podcast.
What if those once-in-a-lifetime events were not once-in-a-lifetime event? What if you could see them over and over again, experience them again and again? So whether it's something that you missed out on or something you missed out on because, well, you weren't born. So something that happened back in the 1600s. Maybe you wanted to go see the gladiators duke it out in the arena, something like that, or see an actual play by Shakespeare at the Globe or something like that.
You're listening to the Holistic Wealth Podcast with host Keisha Blair, author of Holistic Wealth and founder of the Institute on Holistic Wealth. And now, here's your host, Keisha Blair.
Welcome to the Holistic Wealth Podcast, and I'm your host, Keisha Blair, and today we have another special episode. We have a very special guest with us today. Welcoming to the show, we have Derek Gagnon, and Derek is a Canadian author and educator who blends imaginative storytelling with real-world life lessons. A middle school teacher by day, he has a unique ability to connect with young people and inspire them through both the classroom and the page. His debut novel, Out of Time, takes readers on a suspense-filled ride through history and alternate timelines while exploring themes of self-discovery, moral courage, and resilience. Derek, welcome to the podcast. It's so great to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
And so just to get started, Derek, is it possible for you to just tell listeners about yourself and, of course, the inspiration behind your novel?
Absolutely. So as you said, I am an educator. I've been teaching for 10 plus years now. I absolutely love what I do. And actually, I was able to include some of the writing that I do, the passion of writing into the school. Where I teach with the Writers Club. So it's beautiful to see that. Now, where the passion of writing, where the inspiration of this book, Out of Time, came from, back in November 2018, I started writing this novel. But the idea came way before that, back in like 2010, when I lived in Hamilton. Now, in Hamilton, I used to work as a language assistant, creating French activities for the French high school there. And at one point, there was this concert, the Star Wars in concert, that would come to Hamilton as part of a tour. And I'm a big Star Wars fan. And on that night, I think it was like a one night only type of show, Sir Anthony Davis, who plays C-3PO, was the MC. Clips of the movie would be played on the gigantic screen, and then a massive orchestra would be playing the music of all the movies. And so I actually missed out on that. And surprisingly, it gave me a ton of regrets not having been able to go to that concert. And then the idea started rolling in my head. What if those once in a lifetime events were not once in a lifetime event? What if you could see them over and over again, experience them again and again? So whether it's something that you missed out on or something you missed out on because, well, you weren't born. So something that happened back in the 1600s. Maybe you wanted to go see the gladiators duke it out in the arena, something like that, or see an actual play by Shakespeare at the Globe or something like that. So this is where the idea came from, where the inspiration came from.
That's interesting for sure. And so with parents and kids thinking about back to school and transitioning, and I know over the summer, it's like you're in an alternate universe. You're waking up on your own time and you're not even sure what day it is, right? So,
no, you're right.
I know lots of parents, including myself, are thinking about, oh my gosh, how do I transition these teens back into school, especially new schools where, they're actually thinking about fitting in and this sort of thing and thinking about who they are and their identity. Now, your protagonist, a 16-year-old girl, she wakes up with no memory in an alternate universe, and it's almost as if she's on a journey to rediscover herself. And much like teens trying to find their own identity and rediscovering themselves, possibly even in a new school. So I just wanted to center on her for a minute, just to give listeners an idea of, number one, that character, that 16-year-old girl, and also teens feeling like they're entering a new world and rediscovering themselves.
Absolutely. In a way, this character, this teenage girl, she is in a way kind of blissed because when she shows up to this, well, our original timeline, but in her case, an alternate timeline, she has no memories of who she is, of where she is. So as I said, she's kind of blissed because she's starting anew. So she gets to become her own person again. She gets to create her own identity without whatever past actions that she might have done before. To give the listeners an idea of how she got there in our original timeline, it's because there's this company. It's called Chronos. Chronos is a entertainment business that sends people back in time to experience once-in-a-lifetime events. However, sometimes some people from those past timelines come back to our present. And when they do, they have no memories at all of who they were, of where they are. And so there's this shadier side of this company that may or may not be taking those strays, as they're called in the book, and maybe experimenting on them to further the business. Now, let's come back to this stray who, for part of the book, her name will be Roxy. And so Roxy comes to our timeline. She doesn't know where she is. At first, she's scared. She's quite scared. But then she realizes, well, you know what? I get a chance to be a new person. I get a chance to relearn who I am. And so a part of the novel kind of follows Roxy, the stray, on this quest of who she is and trying to figure out, well, who she is.
Absolutely. And I know that in Holistic Wealth, and as we're getting into the section into decision making, I've often said that with Holistic Wealth, every decision has to be intentional. We all make 50,000 decisions every single day when we wake up. So in your story, time travel in particular means every choice can reshape the future, which means every decision has, life-altering consequences, potentially. How can teens apply that idea to their own life decisions today? It's unbelievable how in that story, that time travel context, how much more meaning it takes on. But of course, I think there are lessons that teens can apply in their daily lives.
Absolutely. And I mean, in a way, just again, going back to the aspect of time traveling in this book and Out of Time, when people are sent back in time, they are not able to change their own future. So whatever happens in the past in those alternate timelines has no effect whatsoever on the person who is traveling to the past and his own timeline. And so in a way, it makes me think of, well, if it has no consequences at all for me, whatever I do, if I don't think about the consequences, what's the problem there? And hopefully the readers can see that, well, there is, in fact, a problem there. Because maybe something doesn't inconveniences you in a way, but it can be very negatively consequential to someone else, to another group. And so this is actually why there are, for example, the CEO of Chronos, Richard Washington, who thinks in a way, and then you've got Bill, the leader of the Society of Timeline Liberation, who sees the problem and tries to correct everything that is happening. And then you've got this stray, well, all of the strays who ended up being the problems in a way, because they show up to this new timeline and they are treated as disposable, like they don't belong. And that's sadly a problem that we kind of see today in our society.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And of course, as we think about teens setting boundaries and honoring their own values, Colonel Marsh, another character in the book, he abuses, his power in the story.
Absolutely.
But I'm just wondering how we can apply this in terms of teaching boundaries, boundary setting, and protecting your own values, whether we're adults or teens. I mean, all of us sometimes struggle with setting boundaries in our daily lives. So given this character and that abuse of power, what lessons can teens and adults draw from the story?
I would say the importance of good relationships. Relationships are important. You should not pick someone that just make you feel good in the moment, but someone that can help you grow into the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
In the book, you can see so many different types of relationships. So we've talked about Roxy, the stray, who ends up building relationships with other kids who were taken out of their time, hence the title, Out of Time. And she builds a relationship with those kids whom she has a connection with, she has history with. And together, they kind of try and survive in this new world that they do not know. And together, they try and figure out who they are. So this is a type of relationship where they grow to be the best person that they can become. Another way, well, we talked about Colonel Marsh, we talked about Richard Washington. Now, Richard Washington is a brilliant mind, brilliant scientist who created the Chronos, but he needed someone to help him make it become a reality. And this person ended up being the first person that believed in his project, and that was Colonel Marsh. Now, Colonel Marsh is a very stereotypical military man, someone you could see very cliched in movies. He's got the flat top. He's got something in his mouth all the time. Very charismatic. And so when Richard Washington was at his lowest, living in his car, didn't know what tomorrow would bring, then Maxim Marsh, the colonel, shows up and it's like this light, this beautiful light that says, I believe in what you're doing and I will help you make it a reality. Now, obviously, this sounds fantastic. But then a few years later, Washington realizes that he's being used, that his invention, his creation is being used in a way that Richard did not want it to be used. He wanted to help people. He wanted people to erase this regret of not having been part of a historical event. But then you've got this guy who comes in, you thought who knew who he was, and then he goes and uses your technology to advance his own agenda. So again, you've got different types of relationships in these books. And hopefully my hope is that readers can see that relationships can be halted, especially the negative ones, because it is extremely difficult to continue a good relationship, but it's even harder to end a hard one, something that brings negativity in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. And toxic relationships for sure are those kinds that we need to let go of, for sure, to grow and to fulfill our purpose and, our lifelong dreams. So it's unbelievable, the characters in the story and how courageous they need to be without knowing the outcome or what will happen next. But how can teens cultivate courage in uncertainty and in the face of uncertainty when you really don't know what's going to happen? And of course, you're so unsure of yourself and your surroundings even.
Absolutely, yes.
Any quick lessons on how teens can cultivate this courage?
Absolutely. There's someone, unfortunately, I don't know who said it first, but someone said no fear, as in N-O, and then fear. And then after that, you've got the know, as in knowing, the verb knowing, fear. So teenagers, actually everyone, there is no shame in feeling fear in something, in uncertainty. Because if you do something that you have not done before, you're showing bravery. So sometimes you have to realize that bravery and fear kind of go hand in hand, because you got to be brave to do something that you're afraid of. And so this is where Roxy, she's a very important character in this style. She's extremely brave. She has no idea where she's going, but she keeps going. She keeps advancing forward. Obviously, she will have doubts. Doubts are part of the path of life, really. And what is important is not what you have done in the past, but how you react to those actions and keep going. So don't worry about the fear. Don't let it control you. Take a hold of that fear, be brave, and advance. Now, high school is it's scary. Well, yes, let's use the S word. It's scary, but it's only scary because you don't really know what to expect. And that's fine. In fact, I do teach grade 5, 6, 7, 8, and around the June time, around graduation, I do try and give students the advice of when you're going to high school, here's the one piece of advice that I would give. It's getting involved. Get involved. But even though you might not know what this is all about, maybe you weren't really getting involved in school teams or clubs back in grade 7 and 8 or something. Well, the next 4 years of high school or 5 years in other places, those are the years where you get to make lifelong friendships. And I will always remember this very first bus ride going from my house in Wasaga Beach all the way 30, 45 minutes, almost an hour sometimes, in this tiny little yellow school bus all the way to school, and building those friendships with one of my greatest friends. And then after that, just joining sports teams together, attending clubs together, just having little fun stories in different classes, like kinesiology class or just French class and things like that. So please get involved, because getting involved in high school can make it go significantly faster, but it also makes it more fun.
Absolutely. And so just to transition to another aspect of holistic wealth. Now, you took the personal financial identity quiz, and I know I'm eager to hear your results and to share them, because this has been one of the most insightful parts, I think, of the podcast, where guests come on and they share their results and talk about how it aligns with their spending and their overall finance philosophy and their money mindsets and all that nice stuff. So could you just share with us, Derek, what your results were and how that kind of aligns with your philosophy?
Absolutely. So I did take the quiz, and it said that I am a minimalist. And you know what? It did not come as a surprise at all. Just put things in perspective. I took the quiz on a computer that I've had since 2008. If it's not broken, why change it, right? It works. It's slow, but it works. So I do tend to not really buy new things and things like that. Yeah, I think I have a good relationship with money. If I really, really, really need something, I might actually wait longer than necessary in some cases. Like, for example, my watch, it's going on 5 years. It's a running watch. And sadly, I cannot do more than 10 kilometers on it. Let's call that a problem, maybe. But before it does, but you know what? It still works. So why change?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks for sharing that. And of course, the book, we spoke a lot about that. So I know people are eager to hear where they can access it, where they can purchase, and of course, where they can connect with you, your website, social media, things like that. Can you just share that for us?
I am on Instagram. You can find me on at Le French Teacher. So that would be LE French Teacher. My website is there in my link tree. It's sites.google, and actually fun story about the sites.google. As an educator, it is important to know the different technologies that you're going to be using in the classroom, or even asking the students to use in the classroom. And so I had a chance to experiment with sites.google, Google Sites. And I created a fun little website, again, just for fun. And this is where I post a couple quizzes, figuring out which timeline would be best for you if you were to entertain an idea of Kronos. There are articles that did not feature in the novel that are posted there, other little interviews. So yeah, so little bracket, little parenthesis. The book is also available on Amazon, Indigo Chapters. It's available at the publishers at AOS Publishing, any bookstore, really.
Awesome. And again, thank you so much for joining us on this podcast. It was great having you here, Derek. And thank you so much for sharing about your very fascinating book. I'm sure, so many people will benefit from it, both parents and kids alike, because there's so many lessons for adults and teens alike in that book. So thank you so much for being here and sharing about the book and the story and the inspiration behind it with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure talking about the book and talking with it to you. It's fantastic. It's a dream come true.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Derek.
The Holistic Wealth Podcast with Keisha Blair is brought to you by... Have you joined the Institute on Holistic Wealth? If you haven't already, what are you waiting for? Choose your membership plan at the Institute on Holistic Wealth/memberships to join. As a member, you'll get access to free worksheets, advice, coaching, and an intentional design workshop. As you start to live a more holistically wealthy lifestyle, you'll want to stay for a very long time. So go to Institute on Holistic Wealth/memberships to join. If you haven't read the book yet, pick up a copy of the award-winning best-selling Holistic Wealth 36 Life Lessons to help you recover from disruption, find your life purpose, and achieve financial freedom.